Welcome back. You are tuned into the Labor Forum here at WRG 89.3 FM. We're really very happy to welcome to our airwaves James Macon, president of ATU Local 998, calling from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Hello.
Oh, how you doing?
Well, thank you again so much. I know that you've got to be super busy. Now, here's the reason that we specifically asked you to call in today. And that is because we had done some reporting, of course, about the auto workers at Fiat and Chrysler rejecting their contract. And then no sooner had I read about that than I read about ATU members in Local 998 by 92% rejecting the contract that had been offered to you all. And we have had you on the program previously when you held sort of a work stoppage to underline the important issues facing your membership in Milwaukee. So we really very much want to hear what it is that the issues are and what it is that's happening. Because in this period of pushback against unions and then the surging movement really of workers to say, we're just not going to take it anymore, your union becomes very important to us.
Well, right now, I applaud my members for standing by us. It's not only the first time, but it's like the third time that we got a vote of 92% or better, saying that they, not going to give in. And this last one, contract, we was kind of worried what it was going to come out to be because there was certain things in this contract that will, get more people to think about accepting it, especially people that could retire tomorrow and the next day. But even they stood up and stood by our side, and I applaud them also.
So James, if you wouldn't mind, now here you are calling from Wisconsin, Scott Walker's absolute full-out war against public sector workers, against collective bargaining, against all the gains that workers have made over really generations. And how is it that, could you describe that, the attitude, the mood, what's happening in Wisconsin?
Well, I applaud the United States for basically realizing that, getting rid of unions is not the best thing. They sent him back home when he was talking about running for president. So I applaud everyone that, pretty much sent him a message. And hopefully we can send him a message real soon that, and the rest of the people that believe in breaking up unions, that we're not going to take it anymore. So right now in Milwaukee, he still now is going after the teachers that we standing by the teachers union. That's kind of ridiculous that in Milwaukee, there's some schools that's not, basically passing. So he gave our county executive more power to take over the school system. That makes no sense to me because, county and city is two different organizations in this town. And the county executive has no business dealing with MPS.
So I think this is a situation that's happening around the country. We have something comparable to that here in Georgia, where the governor is essentially trying to get a law passed that would allow him to set up a school district under a superintendent that he chooses, that has the capacity or the ability to fire all teachers, turn them into charters, shut them down, change the curriculum, essentially, do everything to undermine any parent-teacher involvement in the children's education. So let me ask you, though, going back to Scott Walker and the fact that he was able to pass a right-to-work law in Wisconsin and attack collective bargaining, how is it that the bus drivers for the Milwaukee transit system are able to actually have a strike vote?
Well, we fall under 13C. What 13C says that as long as the federal government is giving these organizations money, we should have a right to negotiate. So that's the only thing protecting us right now is 13C. If you get a Republican governor in there, a Republican president, 13C might affect us also by them taking it away from us, giving us that right.
So, James, I'm curious, going back to the contract, and I'm a member here, retired member of Local 732 ATU, and I'm just curious about the concessions. What is the company trying to do? What is management trying to do that people so overwhelmingly don't want?
Well, one of our main problems, and I understand the issue that y'all went through, because I knew your president very well, Curtis.
Uh-huh.
I applaud him because he basically, I learned a lot from him and with the struggle that y'all went through. And that made me stronger when I came back home in Milwaukee, understanding what went on in Atlanta and St. Louis. So our issue right now is they talk about bringing part-timers in, give them opportunity to basically work more hours than what they want to schedule them hours. So basically, you saying that you can work 20 hours, but you can work all the hours you want to voluntarily when they're not paying into the pension or they're not getting any benefits. And that's something that I can't basically stand by and turn this company into a part-time job.
So they'll just shift the work more and more to them, and there'll be less overtime for the regular workers, and gradually turn the workforce more part-time.
Well, where it's looking right now, yes, because you already have what we call a G30 and a G35. These were something that they created about back in 2001 that will be able to work all the hours they want, but they only guaranteed to do 30 hours and 35 hours. And, you already have what you planned to have in the first place, a part-time workers working all the hours they can, but not letting them pay into the benefit, or into the pension, or giving them benefits. And now you're trying to create another group of people to do the same, and we can't do that.
This is similar to the two-tier kind of thing, Diane, in the auto industry.
Right. And right now we already have a 3-tier, and now you're trying to create a 4-tier? No, we can't do that.
So let me ask a question. So bus drivers who are full-time, considered full-time employees, now do they bid on routes and bid on schedules? I have to admit, I don't quite know how this works, and maybe many of our listeners don't either. So how is it that a bus driver, either has a job on a paratransit or a regular bus or whatever?
Well, we have 3 times a year we call picks. And what you do is you pick your route. And the ones that are not allowed to pick a route because they don't have enough seniority, they go on what you call an extra board. And we still have drivers that have this seniority will go on an extra board. And these are the routes that they cover with people out sick or on vacation.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now the routes have been selected by the people that have seniority, and then there's a group that fill in when people are out for whatever reason.
Right.
Now, so what are the routes that these temporary workers or part-time workers get? Is it where they split?
Do the routes that they go on what you call an extra board, so they just fill in when the driver's not available. So what it does is fall in order from seniority or where you pick on the board, because you don't have to, pick high on the board. You could pick low on the board, and the people that can't pick is just put in a spot on the board under the less seniority person on the board.
Can I make a question? So it seems to me that one of the things, as somebody who would ride transit on a regular basis, is that you know your driver. Right? You've got a person, you know your driver, and that driver knows you. And but when the people are part-time, is it that they just get put any old place? So to me, that doesn't necessarily mean they know the route well. They don't know the people well. They may not know that area of the city well.
Well, they know the route well because we made sure they trained on it, but you have someone come in that only supposed to get 20 hours, and I'm only gonna get 20 hours this week, so now it's cold outside. Why should I come in? I'm not getting anything other than working a couple hours. I can't get benefits, and I'm not getting paying into the pension, so it's a job. I can find something else to do that day. And in Wisconsin, we get bad weather around. Why should I come out, risk my life out there, drive a bus, and I'm only gonna get 20 hours a week? I can stay at home in days.
So let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about the attack in general on the idea of public transportation. Because it seems to me that, again, this is a situation where disgruntled passengers, because buses are late, they don't know them, whatever, leads to a sense that these services should be privatized instead of public. Do you feel that that's part of the effort here by what they're doing?
Well, I went to some classes with ATU, and one thing we learned talking to different people throughout the industry that's going through the same situation we are, you get companies come in that really don't care about employees. Like we was about to be privatized by a company called MV Transit. Well, MV Transit pretty much was a company that was known to underbid the contract. They come back later on and tell them that they couldn't run the system at the price that they bid for. So what they do is they lay off drivers, or they make the corporations pay them more money. And this has been the history of a lot of these private companies. And this is money that really don't stay in the United States, like Veolia, First Transit. All these companies is overseas, so the money goes back overseas instead of staying in the United States.
How do you feel going forward from here? What's going to happen next, and what's your strategy? And especially I'm curious about the community, because I know that's one thing that we found here, that building a bridge with the community can make all the difference in terms of winning a good contract.
Well, we always been supporting the community. Over years, even before I got to be president of the union, I worked with different organizations and kept them informed, and letting them know what our issues was, working on their issues, and try to educate everyone what's going on with us. And a lot of people understand. Despite, the company thought that the public was against us, a lot of the public realized what our fight is all about. And, one thing that people realize when you ask them to basically, we hiring every day, and you say something to them, they say, oh, no, I won't do that. I see what y'all bus drivers go through every day. So people see what we're going through.
And that's the thing, like Diane was saying, but the relationships get built between bus operators and the people they serve, and that's really a strong basis for a coalition.
Right. And, the problem is that, transit should be something that everyone should be able to support. It should not be anywhere that anybody say that transit is being cut. Transit is very important for the community, not only for the community, for businesses, because a lot of their employees ride bus. But for some reason, every year, like today, we went to a budget hearing, and I had to bring it up to them that, hey, we should not be in this predicament that we arguing about money when there's other people who need money also. When you have a transportation board, that funds transportation for us, but it's not being funded. And that's ridiculous.
Can I ask a question about that? Because here in Atlanta, MARTA doesn't receive state funds. It's based solely pretty much on fares. How does it work in Wisconsin? Is there state money that comes for the Milwaukee transit system?
Right, we have state money, but county money, and we have federal money. But, that's right now, since the federal government hasn't really put any money in transportation, everyone's suffering. in Marta, I guess, talking to the president there, one of the issues with Edge service is you have fat cats that pretty much collecting the money at the top.
They're big salaries for a large number of the MARTA management.
Right.
Let me ask another question. Can I ask, what is the fare for a bus ride in Milwaukee?
Well, right now it's $2.25 for adults, and what we do is they get an hour transfer that they can ride any bus throughout the city with long as you got an hour. Time is still left on the transfer, and $1.10 for anyone over 65, and anyone that has some kind of handicap, and for children. But we also giving what you call out. We have gold passes that they've been giving out that let people ride for free that has a handicap or over 65.
All right, and can I ask, what is the starting salary or wage for a bus driver?
Well, here's $18. Starting off, top driver makes $23. And our cost of living is very high here.
And I thought I saw when I was reading up on this that there's an issue with your paratransit, your special buses. Is that an issue as part of this contract too?
No, not really, because we really don't deal with paratransit that much, other than we have a contract with First Transit, but we pretty much worked out their contracts. I know a couple years ago there was an issue that this company that we work for made a bad deal that cost the county $8 million.
Okay, so in other words, the Milwaukee buses that we're talking about, this contract doesn't include the way it does here in Atlanta, where we have MARTA Mobility, a paratransit.
No,
okay, it's separate.
Buses.
It's separate. And how are school children? Are they bused on school buses?
Well, a couple years ago, probably about 3 years ago, Milwaukee took most of the kids off of public transportation and gave them school buses. So we have a few. We don't have that many, but kids here in Milwaukee don't like getting on the yellow buses, so they definitely gonna get on the regular buses.
All right. So your membership voted this down 92%. So are you now in negotiations, meeting again, or are things waiting for a mediator, or what's the situation right this moment?
Well, right now we've been meeting with a mediator, but unfortunately we had a brand new mediator, so the company took advantage of him. He was trying to basically find out what was going on in the past, but the company's game plan was just stick to their guns and don't do any movement. So this what brought us to the 92% voting it down. So since then, our county executive somewhat stepped in because the 92% sent them a message that he said he'd take the part-timers off the contract, but that's only hearsay. I haven't seen anything actually in writing, because you can say you're taking the part-timers off, but leave wording in the contract that still allow them to have part-timers, and the wording has to go.
So just one more point I want to make about these part-time workers. Do they get any benefits at all?
No, they don't get any, but they was allowed to work all the overtime they wanted. Also, they didn't pay into the pension either.
So in other words, they
now-
don't have vacation, they don't have sick pay, they don't have.
Well, what they did at first was they reached out to our retirees that get all the benefits that's there, plus they receive a pension. But the problem is a couple years ago, the company basically worked out a deal with that we voted on that I still to this day don't understand how we passed this one. Was it took out future retirement for some of our employees. So now you bring in part-timers that retired, that has everything, but you're working next to another organization of people that would never see insurance when they retire. So it's divide and conquer.
Yes, absolutely. I think I told you that I'm a retired auto worker. And so I have been so overjoyed with the fight that the Chrysler workers have put up about this two-tier wage system. Because you just can't have, it's a real blow to worker solidarity to have people doing the exact same work under the exact same conditions, and one gets so much less in pay and no benefits.
And I applaud anyone that fights for their rights. Everybody complains about people fighting for their rights, and they complain about the union. But the problem is you wouldn't have your issue if you had a union.
So what do you think is going to happen in the next couple of weeks?
Well, hopefully that they're willing to get something done, because right now I don't want to have to do what I did before. And right now my members is telling me that they don't want to go out for 3 days. They want to go out. And I don't want to put anybody in that situation, but, you have to do what you have to do.
What does the future look like, because you've been talking about the issues facing the teachers as far as the public sector? Because we were so inspired by the fight that was waged against Scott Walker, even if it ultimately wasn't a success. But the fact that people came out the way they did, do you see that happening again?
Definitely, because even the people that supported Scott Walker are starting to realize that, he backstabbed them, and it did come up again about privatizing, and called Act 10, and Act 14 was different acts that came up, and it just missed it by one vote. And one of his biggest supporters was construction workers, and they just knew that they had, the politicians in their back pocket, and they even voted against them. So a lot of unions that supported him is starting to realize that, hey, now he's treating you just like everyone else, and they started to wake up.
I wanted to thank you very much for coming on air, James. Folks, in case you missed who we were speaking with, this is James Macon, and he's president of ATU Local 998 in Milwaukee. Before we close, did you know Father Grappi?
No, I didn't get a chance to meet him, but I knew the history of Father Grappi. He was one of our former presidents of the union.
If you wouldn't mind just letting a little bit sending a little bit of that information to our listeners here in Atlanta, because one of the things that we have discovered here and that we try to ameliorate on the program is that the knowledge of struggles, even just 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, is not taught, obviously, in school, and for the most part isn't known by people from one part of the country to another part of the country. So if you have some of that information about Father Grappi and how he became the president of an ATU local, that would be cool.
Okay, yeah, Father Grappi, if no one knows about him, he was pretty much a civil rights leader, and he marched with Martin Luther King, during the 60s and everything else. And what he did was, he was actually a father. He actually was a Catholic priest. And he ended up working for the bus company, and they elected him as president of our union. And he served pretty much 8 months before he died in office.
And I think the thing, I have to tell you, I actually met him in Chicago so many years, I don't know, in the late 60s. I went to some rally or something where he spoke, and when I read that he had later become president of your local, I thought, wow, we're connected.
Right, yeah, he only lasted 8 months because he did die in office.
So if our listeners want to get some more information about what's happening in the coming weeks with ATU Local 998, do you have a website or a Facebook page, or how could people stay connected?
Yes, we have a website. It's ATU998.org. We have a Twitter account. There's Twitter, COM-ATU998. We have a Facebook page, ATU Local 998.
All right, well, we repeated that multiple times. All right, so ATU Local President, 998 President, thank you so much, James Macon, and thank all of your members for standing strong for worker rights. It's an inspiring feat, it's an inspiring act that we really applaud, and we thank you very much for coming on air today because we know you're a very busy person.
All right, thank you, and just let everyone know that you can't succeed if you don't fight for what you believe.
Right, we have the slogan that we closed out an earlier section of the program with, which is, when we fight, we win.
Definitely, definitely.
All right, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, James.
Bye.
All right, folks, that's our program for today. Please do remember that the WRFG Fall Pledge Drive starts October 19th. We rely on you to keep the station on the air and all the fabulous music and information that you receive here. And please tune us in again next Monday, 4 to 5, here at WRFG.